welcome to Among the Few. For those who won't settle for the wide path, this is your place. And so we want to welcome you back to the episode. Did we not get overwhelming comments about sex in marriage?
Let's talk about sex.
Let's talk about it. So today we're going to dive into why sex in marriage is so important. And I know seasons of life can affect, your sexual intimacy and all of those things. So we're going to dive into this topic and talk about it. But we want to open with a scripture. If you guys don't know this, Song of Solomon is the book about intimacy. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so we're going to open with this scripture. Go ahead, Pastor Joe.
Okay, here we go. Song of Solomon 7, verses 7 and 8. You are slender like a palm tree, and your breasts are like its clusters of fruit. I said, I will climb the palm tree and take hold of its fruit.
Yes, climbing that palm tree.
Climbing the coconut tree.
Yes, I will. The Lord says so.
Remember Mark Gungor? This is his whole teaching. We were talking about this. We did this at a marriage retreat. How many years ago? Gosh,
yeah, it's been
a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And that video is so funny and yet so good. So if you guys need a great video to watch together as a married couple, look up Mark Gungor.
Mark Gungor, yeah.
I don't know what it's
Google
called.
Mark Gungor.
It's there.
So good.
It's there.
But he was like, I'm climbing the palm tree.
Yes, and I will take hold of its fruit. Yes. But if you really read the Song of Solomon, it's just this prophetic language and attraction of intimacy between husband and wife. And so I really want to dive into talking about intimacy starts with pursuit. And you know that men and women are created differently. Men are very much visual in attraction. So when they look at a woman, they're visually stimulated. And I'll never forget this statement from a man that I was listening to, Mark Driscoll. He was saying, if you're a man and you act like you will not encounter times where you're going to struggle with being sexually driven towards something, then if you don't struggle with that, then you're either dead or you're a liar, which is so true because men are visual in nature. But it does go beyond just visual. There is a soul connection. There's a spiritual connection when you have intimacy in God's design. But also, when in talking about intimacy starts with pursuit. In Song of Solomon 3, verse 1, it says, I sought the one my soul loves. So I just wanted to kind of dive into that topic. When you guys think about intimacy and pursuit, how are you pursued? Or how do you like to pursue?
Oh, well, let's start with the guys. You guys here. Let's hear.
How do I like to pursue? We didn't go over this very much. I'm not ready. You got anything, Ben?
We got to go from the beginning. So the whole idea about intimacy, where did it come from? It actually comes from Genesis. Genesis 2:18 talks about it's God who said it's not good for a man to be alone. Mm-hmm. And then God said, I will create, a helper suitable for him. Mm-hmm. So it's God's idea that people are in relationship. A man and a woman are not alone. So intimacy is something that is created by God. So it's something that is supposed to be holy, and it's supposed to be, it's a natural function of life. So it should not be made to be something weird or awkward. It's just like going to the bathroom or any other thing. Two people that are in love, intimacy is part of the process. So, and if that's how we were built, then it begs for us to answer the question, how should we go about it the right way? Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, I love that actually, because if you think about it, like the world just perverts everything. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, obviously intimacy isn't just sex. It's connection, vulnerability. It's that deeper way that you connect. And with your spouse, it's a lot of different things. But I think just we have been taught the wrong things. So talking about it through like a holy lens is a really good first start.
Yeah.
A lot of people never do that, honestly.
Yeah.
They really don't even know how to like do that. So, you know, when we say with people in marriage counseling a lot, they're going from a very worldly perspective to I'm going to put a ring on it. And when your sex is driven by worldly perspective and then you just put a ring on it, you can actually bring worldly mindsets into the bedroom, into a marriage bed, which isn't good either, you know?
Yes.
So I think that's kind of an interesting.
So I have a really cool question to ask everybody, because each of us grew up differently and we were given advice. I don't know if you were given advice, but what was the advice given when you got married? We established this in one of the episodes that Joe and I was a virgin when I got married, so I had no experience. Lindsay and Ben have a different story, but I'll start with mine. So I'll never forget the day that I was getting married and my mom came up to me and she said, now my dad never talked about it. It was like a taboo. You don't discuss this. But my mom, she's getting me ready for the wedding and she comes up, she's like, this is the only thing I'm going to say to you. Practice makes perfect. And I was like, that's it? That's all you have to say to me is practice makes perfect? That was my only advice that I ever got about sex and marriage. What was your advice?
I grew up in African culture, and this was not a subject of discussion whatsoever. You pretty much had to discover sex on your own, one way or another, because at a certain stage in your life, you become curious, and then pretty much you're going to learn from the older guys because they're probably going to talk about it more openly. But it was never a subject of discussion. I never heard about it in church. I grew up in the Catholic Church. I never heard it, at least at school, in the biology class. You had to learn about reproduction. That's the first time you probably learned how your body operates, you know. And then they also talked about certain stages of life and what happens and all that, and puberty. So that's the only education. But as to how you should handle sex, there was no any lesson. Yeah. So you were left to go discover for yourself. Unfortunately, because the right people did not present the solutions, they were readily available out in the world, which had the provided view of it. So we learned some crazy stuff, you know, until we came to Christ and began to realize that the Bible also has said a lot of things about this on how we should handle it. That's when we really get a biblical view. And then even when I became born again, I was just told you should never have sex before marriage. Don't.
Yeah.
But nobody told me, okay, what do I do with these feelings? You know, what do I do when these feelings come? Because I'm a natural human being. I'm a grown man. You know, nobody ever really. It just said, you know, that's a spirit of lust. You need to rebuke it. It needs to go. You should not have sex before marriage. But nobody really talked about, okay, then how should we do it in a healthy way? So I can say there was almost zero education on this.
Yeah.
What about you?
Well, I had a similar idea, like just didn't talk about it for like, you know, parents both sides of my parents' families and everything, very closed off in that regard. They don't talk about it. They don't display, you know, the public affection very well. I mean, I'll watch my parents hold hands occasionally, but it's not like in your face all the time. But I think the advice I got was like, have fun, you know, like, you know.
And that was probably from like your brother.
Yeah. And
it was probably not from your dad.
Yeah, no, definitely not from my parents. But other people who probably were, you know, friends that were married already. And
we had a few when we got married that were married already.
And so I think the foundation of what I had was, I think, the parenting style is that if you're taught to treat women well, like you're not going to approach this in a wrong way. Mm-hmm. Like you're being taught to respect the women in your life, and especially, your girlfriend and your spouse, but you respect them and honor them. And so you're not going to, in that teaching, you're not going to take advantage of that. You're not going to do anything that's going to hurt them or physically or mentally or emotionally, all that stuff. You're there the man is to protect and to take care of his spouse. So like that was taught, but it's not, what happens in the bedroom is, we're not talking about that. But I mean, I grew up where, the internet was fully functional, and, that was a big thing. I forget when I started seeing porn for the first time. Like I was young, and so like the world does an amazing job putting it in your face of the skewed version of love and intimacy. Mm-hmm. But I think the, Holy Spirit within me, whatever, always, even though I was, doing the wrong of going into that realm, but I think the Holy Spirit really coached me in the ideas like, this is not how you go about your life. This is not the right way to go through things with your marriage, and just protected me in that way, because I have heard stories about people that like they see that on the internet or wherever, or videos, and then they try to duplicate that in the bedroom and totally just mess up the relationship with their spouse, their wife, or whatever. But not being taught that these are the things that how you're supposed to treat your spouse or your wife.
Well, I think just to kind of like go after what he's just saying. So my version of sex was, I was 14 when I lost my virginity. And so I did whatever I felt like I should do. So it wasn't about intimacy, and it wasn't about what was pleasing for me. It was about what I felt culturally I was required to do as like a female. So like my boyfriends like would watch porn, and then they would say, we should try that. And then I'd say, okay. Like it was that was my sexual experience. So when I actually got married, a lot of my guy friends just had porn on in the background at like their houses. We would just be over there hanging out, and there'd be like that on. And like, so that wasn't even weird to me necessarily, that like guys expected that of a girl. But then when part of our story is like, actually when we got married, I was trying to prove that I wasn't any of those things. And so I was more like, I don't know. I was like,
were you more reserved?
Kind of like I was like, I think we can only do the missionary position because that sounds Christian. Like,
yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? Like, so like I couldn't have any freedom at all to explore what was good inside of a healthy marriage. So I didn't even know what, as far as like intimacy was, like I had zero. My parents always talked about sex as a good thing, but like zero information, like zero help. So my idea is sex is good, and this is what guys want from me. And so I'm going to give them what they want, but I don't want like Joe to like think it's just bad words. I don't want him to think I'm all the words that I've called myself all these years in my head. So like, I'm going to present myself as, everything he wants me to be, but a much more holy version of it. And it was so confusing for years because I really didn't know who I was and like how to be intimate,
But I think that a lot of the God's design is that is to experience each other and discover these things as one. Mm-hmm. And when someone has discovered a lot of things without the other one, it just brings a lot of shame and a lot of
confusion almost, like,
but also like there's also like a difference of where the approach, because like if we're doing something for the first time together, like we're like, yeah, let's we're figuring it out together. But then one person is behind, so to speak, as far as their understanding or knowledge, then you kind of feel like you're lesser than, or that you don't, you just feel lesser of a person because you don't know what's going on and the other one does. And
Did you guys have that experience a little bit? Like,
I think you're stating something that is so important. And when it came to me as a virgin being married, I think communication was the biggest thing. You have to communicate like what is feeling good or what is not feeling good, or what is basically causing arousal. Well, it is not, those kinds of things, because communication, I think communication is the biggest factor.
absolutely.
And you're not, don't communicate. We were just talking about this. When you're in the phase of young kids and they're climbing on you all day long, and then they just want to touch you at the end of the day, you freak out because you're like, I'm already overstimulated with kids. But I know what Ben is really great about is communicating from the beginning of the day. Hey, he's already letting me know.
He's climbing the coconut tree.
He's climbing the coconut tree. He's already giving me the sweet nothings, and setting up the stage. So I'm not completely caught off guard at the evening that, okay, now this is what you want from me. So I think communication in sex is huge.
Well, we had to communicate through like my issues, his thoughts, but it just took us a minute because there was some shame still attached to all of that. And I was really working through that with the Lord, of course. And he healed me a lot before we got married and stuff. But I still felt like some kind of mindset of like, I'm supposed to be this and I'm not supposed to know these things or do these things. So like, I have to pull it all back. But then if your mom and dad are like giving you 0, like that's hard. And like, we've said this, I don't know how many times with Christian people, you're like you just said it. Don't. And then the minute you get married, it's like the switch gets flipped, and all of a sudden you're like, you can do all of it.
I'm
Wait,
allowed
what?
to now.
Yeah.
It's weird.
It's like, and you still feel like I shouldn't be looking at you naked right now. And then you're like, we can do all the fun things, Like we were saying how many times we had sex on our honeymoon.
Yeah.
I mean, how many times did you guys
A
have
lot.
sex?
You're practicing a lot.
We're like, can we do like, how many times a day can we get this done?
Yeah.
And when you're in your 20s, it still does that. So.
I also think in the communication side of it, when I was a kid, there was a boy who took advantage of me. And so I was exposed to things that I should have not been exposed to when I was like a first grader. So I remember when we got together and we were kind of talking through these things, I was scared because I was like, when we sat down and communicated about, okay, this is what I want, that's what he wants. And then I communicated with Ben, I don't want to do this because it reminds me of that past experience that I had. And so kind of, we also communicated about boundaries that we didn't want to cross because I was not comfortable. And then progressively, as we felt trust, as I could trust him that he's not taking advantage of me or he's very tender in that moment, that we began to experiment with different things. So I think that was a real thing.
Which is a great point with trauma and people who have survived sexual trauma. That changes your whole sexual experience as a husband and a wife tremendously. And like, you do have to be upfront, vulnerable, communicative with things like that. Because that's a real thing. But I think the trust, it gets built.
It does.
Yeah.
What was your experience?
The one with there's like when you have a gap in experience and one person is just learning, the other person is, so there's this different in expectation. Because one has just a fantasy reality of what this could be. The other one has had some experience, but the person with the experience is expecting the other person without experience to match what they think. So there has to be communication is what kind of shrinks that gap. And if both of your motives are right, and then you begin to understand each other and to wait for each other, eventually you will grow and you will come to that level where you guys communicate. And now that's when sex becomes enjoyable. Because now it is not just a duty for one person. It's something that both of you are engaging in. So for women, they're emotional in nature. It's how God created women. They're
We gotta
emotional in
feel it.
nature. Yeah.
Yes, you gotta feel it.
So, but guys are physical. So all a guy has to do is to think about having sex, and he's ready. You know, it's just us. Is how God created us. But you have to learn that that's not how women are. So you have to engage them emotionally until they meet you at that level. So that's the training nobody ever gave me.
Yeah.
So I had to learn that as I got into the marriage that, okay. And then a second thing that really helped me is you begin to, other people mentored me through books, and I listened to their videos back then and cassettes. I guess we had cassettes and you know, I think if you say that to a Gen Z right now, they'll look at you like, what?
I know we were talking about when you used to get sermons on tape. You could like request one.
Yeah.
We were just talking about that the other week.
Yeah. So those some of these mentors began to really teach me what it means to have sex the right way and how you should treat your spouse.
Yeah.
And that's what really brought the education that I lacked when when nobody told me anything.
Well, and I think there's something so powerful about like having somebody in your life who will be really honest with you.
Yes.
And very vulnerable about their own experiences, because like and I'm sure you guys have done this too with marriage counseling, but when we sit with people and we share our own kind of stories, they're like, what? We're not alone? I mean, we've sat with people who have struggled to ever find the joy in sex, and we're like, you got to have a lot more of it before you hit the jackpot, because there is like a jackpot in sex. And I would say like ours was even 10 years in where we're like, whoa, I didn't even know it could be like this. Like, I don't know if it was that long in, but you know, like obviously it was good up until then, but there was this point where we were like, shoot, okay. And now at 23 years, we are nailing it.
You're nailing it.
You know?
Yes, I am.
Right? You know what I mean?
I guess practice makes perfect.
Practice makes perfect. It
Well,
does.
But that's a good advice.
It is good advice.
Well, I think,
Yeah.
I think going back to like your training and talking is like, I guess if you're parents now and you're trying to see how to teach your kid,
Yes.
I think one of the things is just talking about uncomfortable things. It doesn't have to be necessarily sex. It doesn't have to be that stuff, but getting your kid comfortable talking about uncomfortable
Yes.
things, because the conversation about sex with your spouse is uncomfortable, and it's not. It's like I don't know. Let's just not talk about it.
Yeah,
and,
when you like don't love something, it's hard to tell your spouse.
and so
that.
there's a
That's not
training.
working.
There's a training in that, but then also the training. I think what makes the jackpot situation happen is that I think at the beginning, and it's true about any relationship. The relationship is self-serving. Like I need you to do this for me.
Yeah.
Like everything, like whatever the situation, not just sex, but it's like I'm in it for me. I'm selfish, and I need you to provide whatever I need for me. And the other spouse is doing the same thing. I need. But then the jackpot comes in where it's like, how can I serve you? How can I provide for you? How like I want to make your life better. I want to make your experience better. And so, I mean, that's for me. It's more of, and it's making sure you're good.
Well, and
making
if,
sure
if
you're
both
happy.
people are doing that,
Yeah.
then everybody's good.
Yeah.
But also, I think it's for part of it for me, and I'm sure this is probably true for you too, Jackie. There's got to be a place where, as a woman, like you fully relax.
You
And-
have to be relaxed.
Yes.
And I couldn't relax for years. I didn't even know I wasn't relaxed. Now I look back, I'm like, I wasn't relaxed. But there was a lot of fear too, and like trusting him and being that vulnerable.
Yeah.
Because like it really is vulnerable for a
Yes.
woman. It's I know guys, it is a little different. Like functionally, it is even different. But like a woman, like you really have to be open. You have to be receiving, like all of those things, and like. And the guy wants to know that you are enjoying it, but then you want to lean in, but you also, it feels a little embarrassing sometimes. Like there's real things that like have to happen in the process.
I think one of the real things is when your body is changing when you're pregnant.
Oh,
I
or
can
you
remember
gained weight or lost weight or all the things.
You gain weight,
know?
you lose weight, you're pregnant, and you're experiencing all the hormonal roller coasters of pregnancy, and then you're like, is he even attracted to me anymore? You know,
I'm just disgusting.
Yes, you go through all of that, and I mean, thank God that they still love us through those processes, because that to me was so vulnerable. And then post pregnancy, you're healing, and now C-sections and all that good stuff, and then you're like, oh man, like, are they still going to love me? Can we get back to that beauty of having that intimacy within sex? So, I mean, there's so many phases that I feel like the women go through when it comes to navigating your sex life. I mean, it changes.
In our bodies, because like we know they're visual. So we're like, this isn't
you're
pretty,
like, I didn't know this could sag like it's sagging now.
when he's like, baby, you're hot, I'm like, I appreciate you saying that, but I don't think so.
It's true.
Right?
It's true.
I mean, it's true.
Yeah.
It's just true.
But I think a narrative, back to piggybacking off of what Joe is saying, is that talking about your kids about sex and having those uncomfortable conversations.
Yeah.
Without a doubt, one thing, I heard a lot about sex in school. And so, when I became a mom, I was like, there is no one going to establish what sex means in school for me. And so I ended up talking to my kids about sex very early on, because I wanted to be the one to establish what it means and the purpose of it. And I feel like our culture and the movies we watch, sometimes you watch these movies about a one-night stand, or that it's just physical. It's not.
No.
That is such a lie, that this is just a physical bodily reaction and that you don't take anything afterwards. And I think that's so wrong, because anyone who's probably gone through a one-night stand, they feel terrible the next day. They feel like just a piece of meat or like just disgusting, because sex is supposed to not just be physical, but it's also supposed to have the intimacy of the emotional connection and the spiritual connection.
One of the things that I determined is that I am not going to let the world be the first person to be the first educator to my children about this topic.
Right.
So based on all my mistakes that I made as a young person, or the roadblocks and all this, so I decided I'm going to have this conversation. And like you said, Pastor Joe, that you introduce it. You just make sure that first of all, you have to let them know that this is a God-ordained thing, and then since the world already is going to introduce itself to them through movies, through conversations at school, through all kinds of things, now you have to make sure that you come back and you're laying the right foundation, and you're making it is not a weird thing to talk about this in the right context.
Right.
That's right.
It doesn't have to be hash and but you have, in the right context, you can see about it. I hear kids talking about certain things and I'm like, ooh, they're so bored about it. But then I realize, they're at home with their parents, and it's okay to say some of these things in our context.
Yeah.
The other day,
I'm sorry.
Just
not to make everything taboo and weird.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
It's taboo and weird. And then they also learn boundaries when it's weird to do it.
Yeah.
The other day, I don't know, I'm not supposed to say this, but I'll say this. Yeah, at school, one of the kids, you know how kids play. One of the kids kind of took down pens, and it was a girl, and talking about, she was saying, "Hey, look at my butt." And our 4-year-old son was like, "No, you can't do that," and ran to their teacher and talked about it. And the only reason he knows that is because he knows we are not supposed to do that in public.
Yeah.
This is not, in the same way, our children should be able to know when it's appropriate for this and when it's not, because you have brought it to the light. And now when they hear the perverted version of the world,
they know.
They check it.
Yeah. Right.
And they're like, no, that's not of God. That's not what I'm supposed to.
Well, and we never made like private parts or private areas shameful.
Yes.
we
so
made them precious, like private. You know what I mean? Like, so like, you know, we have a boy, girl, boy. That's how our family is arranged. And Sydney's smack in the middle of two boys. Well, Quinn and Sydney were super close together, and they would take baths together when they were very little, you know. And so one day they were in our big garden tub, and we would let them wear goggles and like swim around because it was like a pretty big tub. And one day I was out there. I was only out for like a minute or two getting towels or whatever I was doing. And I come in and Quinn's laying on the bottom of the tub, and Sydney's above him with goggles looking at his, you know what, floating on the top of the water. And she's doing. And they're like 2 and 3. Okay, they're 2 and 3.
Yeah, they're little.
And he's like, "This is funny, Mom." And I was like, "Oh, no, it's not funny." I was like, "But what it is like private. So let's talk about this." And like, boys and girls are different. And we had this whole conversation. It ended up being a very like powerful conversation.
Yes.
And then I said, "Guys, now you really can't take baths together anymore because it's apparent that like you notice there are differences, and like, but this is how God made us." So we never went into shame about it, freaked out, yelled and screamed at the top of our lungs like parents do when things like that happen. We didn't create fear around it.
Right.
We just empowered them to know, you know, what to do. And so I think that's also something that is important, like, because we want our kids to walk powerfully into marriage and know that sex is a great thing.
Yeah.
We talk about that. We have 3 teenagers. We talk openly about sex in our family, not details or information, but we talk openly about the beauty of what God has created and why it's so precious and important to wait.
Yes.
And before my daughter gets married and our sons, we will sit them down and talk about some of the questions they have, because I want them to walk into their you know, wedding night feeling like excited
And empowered.
right?
Yeah.
And I think that's what I'll do different, you know, as a parent.
Well, I think even for everybody listening, just like if you're starting to have kids, recognize that it's happening. The world is presenting itself earlier and earlier. Like I think the statistic now is like kindergarten that you're introduced to porn, which is 5 and 6 years old. Like no way. You gotta start this conversation like the law of first mention. Like whatever the kid hears first is going to be set in their mind faster and harder to remove that. Like, so if you don't, if you don't set the standard right away, you're going to be fighting an uphill battle and just, like Paxton, like, no, that's not allowed. Like, dude, that's not what mom and dad taught. That's not okay. You know, you got to really understand what's true and right. And then whatever's not that is obviously wrong.
Yeah, I want to close with this scripture in Song of Solomon 2 verse 16.
Oh, you're closing? Because I thought...
I want to close with this, and I'm going to bring it back around, but it says, "My beloved is mine, and I am his." And so when we belong to each other, like you physically belong to them, I physically belong to you. And there is something powerful about sex, is that it brings such deep connection, and men need it. Men need sex. So in every phase of your life, women, we have to know our husbands need sex.
Do you know that statistic, like the physical statistic? So when, and this is, you know, one of those words that nobody wants to say, but when ejaculation happens, it emits, what was that actual statistic? The amount of, I don't think it was serotonin, but it's whatever, like a rush of that
connection.
It's a connection hormone.
Chemical
it's not
hormone,
serotonin, but it's a chemical connection hormone. It emits that in that moment, the strength of like how a woman feels when she holds her little baby newborn and like that deep connection.
Women,
but only men get that in ejaculation.
Well, women feel that level of connection very
throughout, like,
easily, and it's a very strong thing happening all the time. But men only reach that same level as the woman does in those moments in the orgasm of sex.
And so God actually designed men
so we don't
to connect with their spouse through the act of sex. That's such a beautiful
and it's a de-stressor for men.
And me.
And women. Yes.
We were
It
having
is
a
a
very
de-stressor.
stressful week, and I'm like, get over here. And he's like, okay.
Yeah.
Well, I think I think one of the things
Yeah,
that
it totally does.
I completely agree. I mean, men, as we want and need sex, but I think what I've been seeing a lot, hearing a lot, and experiencing a lot is that it's not about the sex. It's about the idea that she desires me. And that the woman desires the husband, because there's so many times, so many conversations that we've had where it's like, I don't really want it. I don't really care. I don't like whatever. And it's like out of a duty kind of a thing. And the man is emotional. Like when you make this thing that he desires and that he really, and if you go scientifically, that's the only way he can connect with you at the same level that you get to all the time. Like he's at a deficit. He's at it. Like he needs that ability to connect with you. Then if it's only out of like, well, you get it, on our anniversary, on your birthday, like, and it's
good.
this, whatever, then he's like, what's the point? Like, then I'm going to shut this
Or
whole
if you
thing
lay
down.
there and just take it.
Yeah.
Right.
Like
It's-
without
Without
connecting.
connecting.
Like he's looking for
seriously.
someone who desires him,
Yes.
and someone who desires to have that. Like it's not because you want the man to desire to connect with you, to desire to do all these emotional things, which is hard for him. And so this physical thing, which is hard, a lot of times for women, like you got to rise above the hard and do
Well, I
Do
think that's
the
where
action.
the commitment to the Holy Spirit comes in. If I'm struggling with any part of our, like you said, when you're little, or your kids are little, not when you're little, when your kids are little and they're crawling all over your body and your husband is like, that's my body. Because that's what Joe says. He's like, well, those are
that's
mine.
what the Bible says.
Right? This is
Yeah,
what
it
it
does
says.
say that.
My beloved is mine and I am his. But I'm like, but it was also 3 other people's today, and I'm a little exhausted by the amount of touch that I've
Very
received.
true.
But at the same time, there's a part of me then that has to go into prayer and say, Holy Spirit, like, help me. Because I want to offer my husband like all of me. Like, and it's been a little bit, chipped away today because I have 3 children, but I want to give him all of me. So that's my commitment as a woman, is to pray and be like, stir it up, Lord. Like, stir up that passion,
Well,
because you
it's-
created me that way.
It's also the man to like recognize that for you.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, men are really good at building things and creating atmospheres. It's like, take the steps to make sure that your wife is ready. And
Yes.
like, you
Grease
know,
the wheels.
Yes.
well, not,
Hello.
but not
You
just,
need to do that.
not just that, but like make sure like the day that she has help
Yeah.
for
Do
the kids.
dishes.
Do the
baby.
dishes, like, do these things that
That's
are
hot.
Yes.
important. Yeah, like what do you like when I vacuum or something? It's like,
I'm like, oh, baby.
yeah.
Oh, you're getting
yeah.
some tonight.
So
I love the way you push that vacuum around the house. Your
When
butt
Ben-
looks good right
When
now.
Ben cuts the grass, and I'm like, man, you look so good right now cutting that
Yes.
grass. Yeah.
There's something about it.
So good.
I know. What advice would I give a young man that's probably just coming into marriage, or even a husband who feels that this has gotten cold? Is you have to understand what are the needs of your wife, and like we are saying here, for us, we want to be satisfied sexually. But what is it that gets her to get to that level where you guys can now say, yes, let's go have sex? And the thing is, as you just have heard Pastor Joe say, and both of you just agreed, those acts of service,
Yeah.
they are very good at creating the atmosphere, the
powerful.
feelings, because they're, like I said, women are created emotional beings, and those things arouse emotions for love. And so you cannot ignore that part about it. Just because you want to rush into it. No, you have to have the respect and the patience to do these things. And the only reason I can advise somebody that is because I've crazy sometimes, I want it now, but that's not how he operates.
I want to kind of end on this note. How important is touch for a man? How important is touch?
It's huge.
It's huge.
I mean, I think it goes back to this whole thing. It's like you touch me, you hold my hand, it tells me that you see me. It tells me that you, like, if you don't touch someone, that reveals that you don't really care, have a relationship, that you whatever. But when you're touching someone, like, that's intentional. There's a desire, like, I want to be with you. I want, like, we are one, we're together. And so, like, I think it goes back to what we just were talking about too, is like, if you set this whole thing up, like when someone plans something for you, like, that they care about you, that you're seeing them. And when you're doing these things, like, you are setting the atmosphere, setting the whole situation up for that person. And so it's not about you, it's about them. And when a wife will do that for her husband, he sees it, he feels it. He's like, wow, I'm respected, I'm honored, I'm desired, I'm all these things. And the same thing with a man does it for the wife.
Well,
is like, it just
guys
sets
to
the
play
stage.
around a lot with a woman. So, like, smack you in the butt or, like, grab your boobs when
All
they're
the
walking
time.
by. And, like,
All the time.
But sometimes that doesn't necessarily tell me that he thinks I'm amazing. It maybe feels like I'm a little bit of a playground. So, like, I love that aspect of it. But what really tells me is that
body
he's
is a
into
wonderland.
me. What really tells me that he's into me is, like, when he's like, "Hey, baby, you look gorgeous today," and I'm like, "Oh, wait, what?" Because, like, that's not normal. That out of his mouth.
Well,
all
you have
day.
to recognize what
So,
is.
like, a man has to know too. Yeah.
The smack in the butts for me.
Yes.
The whispering in your ears for you, kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, like, I think that goes into, like, you have to be speaking life to one another.
Yes.
Women. So one of the things we hear, and I just thought this was important to say, because you were asking about touch for men. When a man is like, "Hey, you're my wife and I'm allowed to do this," that it's true. But there's also some kind of level of disrespect sometimes that comes through that we see a lot in marriage counseling, which is, you're mine and I get to do what I want, instead of, like, how do I break down the walls of you so that you want to give me every bit of it.
Yeah.
And, like, Joe breaks those walls down for me. Like, he doesn't come for me and be like, "You got to do it because you're my wife."
No,
like,
never.
I've never.
No.
He's never not once made me feel like I was some object that he possessed.
Right.
And I think that that's also very valid, because we hear that a lot in marriage counseling. We hear that the man is coming for the woman and he's doing nothing else all day long, nothing else to help, nothing else to make her feel seen or beautiful or smart or capable. And then all of a sudden he wants to, like, rip her clothes off, and she's like, that.
No.
Well, I think that's obviously it's a dysfunctional marriage in that regard.
Yeah.
I think it goes back to, like, the relationship, the communication side of things. There's dysfunction in that, where it's not communicating, not having conversations that are real and intimate, and then it becomes, well, she's not giving it willingly, so I got to take it. And it turns into this dynamic that is just not healthy in any way. And then it's just this train, this big ball rolling, and it just becomes unhealthy. And then she starts shutting down, and then he just it just becomes completely unhealthy.
Let me ask you a question, because you haven't really said much in this part of the conversation. Like, what do you do to encourage yourself in this area? How do you, like, turn it on so that you can bring him all of you? Like, I think that's a good question for a woman.
I think in learning this from the beginning was, reading some books and educating myself on the physicality of a man. So I know that I definitely desire sex. And so, but what I also know is he desires it more frequent than I do. So in understanding how he's made up, for every 2 times he wants it, then I want it. And so, excuse me. What I've learned is that, okay, he does these awesome things to get me to that point. And that is just like this morning. He brought me coffee. It was so sweet. He's like, I didn't remember your drink, but I made the point of going back and getting you a cup of coffee. That means something to me. It touches me on a level. It may not touch you, but it means something to me. And so usually when I'm getting these hints, I start to prepare myself. I'm like, okay, I know what he wants from me. He's communicating very clearly that he's getting to that point of like, hey, I'm setting the stage because I'm going to ask for some later, which I get. Like, I understand. And so through marriage, we've come to this, conclusion with each other. Like, I know he's coming on strong when he's touching me, and he's feeling me up because it's often. So I'm like, okay, and then he's really great at communicating. So I have to get myself in, like, I have to start like preparing myself, like, hey, be sweet, understand what he wants. It may be out of my timing because I may not be all the way there yet, but I start to prepare myself mentally, like, hey, I know that he needs this from me. And I stopped thinking about myself. Kind of like you said, you're here to serve that person. Yeah. So I'm like, okay, why does he need this from me? He needs connection. That's what he's looking for.
Well, and one of the things that I do is I'll say, like, so years into our marriage, he was like, you never like are the initiator or whatever.
I get that often.
So like if I can tell that this is what he's after, and we have sex multiple times a week. I mean, we're not like once a week or once a month or some crazy thing. Like it's often, but I'll be like, okay, how am I going to approach him tonight? And it'll be me who does it. And then he's surprised, or you get something nice out to wear, which helped me. I had put away lingerie for years when our kids were little because my body had changed. I didn't buy anything new. I didn't fit into the stuff when we got married, and I had to go back and buy some things to say, you know what, I care about you being a visual person. Like, those are the small things that I started to do differently as I was married, that say, hey, I'm getting ready too. Yeah. Like, cause I have to be.
I laugh at lingerie because it don't last long.
It's like a half a second. You're like, hey, look. And they're like, rip it off.
A whole industry for seconds.
For seconds.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's, I agree with everything being said. I just want to be sure that we're communicating, like, because we hear this a lot in marriage counseling too, is that all he wants is sex. And so then therefore anything that's positive is an avenue to get sex. Like, that's not always the case. No. And it's like, again, I go back to this, men are emotional people as well. They're not necessarily as emotional, or it's not, visible.
Right. You're not just nice to me because you want to have.
Right. But there is, like, it goes back to the intimacy. Like, men crave intimacy. And it's not only sex.
It's connection.
It's connection.
It is connection, yeah.
And to feel you up and, mess with you or do something nice for you isn't it. I think that's a big thing, thought process in women, is that just because he does that, like, sex is what he wants. I mean, I'm sure he's not going to disagree if sex happens, but at the same time, let him be nice to you without the assumption, because that's all. Like, how many times we've had conversations where, well, he got me flowers, so obviously he wants sex.
Yeah, and a lot of marriage counseling,
and so it just makes this negative thing in her mind, and then she's like shuts off. It's like, no, you're not getting it because I'm punishing you for something.
But isn't that where punishment? Like, the whole construct of your marriage has to be trust, vulnerability, honor, love.
Yes.
Where everything you're doing every day is like, I love you, you're mine, I'm yours. And so then when he touches your body or you touch his, now it's not like, oh, I just want sex. It's like, we're in love. Yeah. Like, I want to touch him.
Yeah.
I love
it
to
should
touch
go back
him.
to that.
Like, he's my favorite place to be, like cuddle, touch his hand on my on my, leg or around my, I feel so safe with him. So all day long, I'm like, this is great. And then it just makes me want to do that.
Yeah.
Like I'm not.
Should have that connection.
In Corinthians, it talks about husband love your wives. And then it talks about the husbands to honor their husband. Wives to honor their husband. So the honor and love are two things that are very important in this whole thing, because honor looks like something and love looks like something.
Yeah.
So from the man, what are the acts of love that communicate to your spouse? That's your love language.
Yeah.
And what is it that she does that makes the husband know that that's the honor?
Yeah.
So once you have those two in this, they're the bedrock of intimacy. And then you find now, once you identify through experience what that looks like, because we all have different love languages, and you find, that's why I like the book, The 5 Love Languages.
Yeah.
I recommend that for every spouse.
To know,
Because in our marriage counseling with folks, you find that most people don't know the love language of their spouse.
Well, and I know we're trying to wrap this up too. This is so cool. Like in the book of Song of Solomon, like one of the things, like if you read the book, I just read it like a month ago as part of my like Bible reading. And there's this one verse that just like got me, but she was saying how she could hear his hand on like the door handle and like her heart, like jumped inside of her, like her insides quivered, or however it's like written, just at the sound of his hand touching the doorknob. And I just want to remind you, all of you listeners out there, and like there was a moment where the hand on the doorknob made you quiver. Find that again.
Yes.
Like, and so I take myself back to those moments a lot where I'm just like, I couldn't get enough of him. And like, if he just walked into the room and I smelled his cologne, I was like, oh, like, remember when you're dating, we talked about this on the, the first episode we did with you guys, when you're just dating and every little thing just makes you want to die. And like, remember that, because
The butterflies,
that is still there.
Yes.
It might be like covered up by a lot of years and a lot of things, but like, I still love how he smells, and I still love just looking at him across the room when he winks at me, and do those things.
Yeah.
Get the quiver back.
So my encouragement is read the Song of Solomon
to each other.
Read the Song of Solomon to each other, because the intention of Song of Solomon and sex is not that it's cold and distant, but that it's supposed to be designed in intimacy and pursuit and passion and tenderness for each other. So read it.
And one of the other thing is this. Disconnect from life and go on a cruise, go on a 3-day vacation, go with one intention. If loving each other or intimacy between both of you is an important, vital part of a marriage, it is worth investing money and time into it.
Yeah.
The reason why the coldness of the heart gets in is because you ignored things for so long, and you got rusty on the inside. She got rusty on the inside.
And what the about outside? You can get rusty if you leave it too long,
and you find people they're still spending money on all kinds of things. But why not invest in that which is very precious to you? And you find, what are the things that made her tickle? What are the things that made him, love you? If you could go back and say, honey, we need to stop everything. Let's just go figure this out. There's so many marriages and even love that gets ignited when people do that.
Yes.
So
listeners, if you're listening to Among the Few, you have now heard the directive from Ben. Husbands and wives, you need to plan a weekend getaway.
Yes, do it.
Where the two of you go and reconnect
Airbnb.
and spend time together on a cruise or Airbnb.
And you have Naked Friday, Naked Saturday.
Naked Sunday. Rekindle this connection between the two of you, that you are both tender and you love each other, and that intimacy.
Yes.
So we want to thank you for joining us today on Among the Few. Like, share, and subscribe. If someone that you know is struggling with sex and intimacy in marriage, share this.
Yes.
Because this is for us to be vulnerable and really get this information out to you, to encourage that and be intimate one with another. So thank you for joining us today on Among the Few.
Bye, guys.
See ya.
bye.
That was great.
That was good.
Make sure you go have sex.